Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We love to go deep, and today we're tackling something that might not sound super exciting at first, financial conversations in English.
Yeah, money talk.
Money talk, but stick with us.
Yeah.
Because, trust me, this is about way more than just, balancing your checkbook or crunching numbers. We're talking about feeling comfortable and confident with the language of money. So you can really handle anything from opening a bank account to negotiating a raise like a pro.
Yeah, it's like having the right tool for the job. If you
Yeah.
walk into a situation and you've got the right tools, you just feel more confident.
Right?
100%.
And this is the same thing.
Totally. And because we love efficiency here, we've got a really awesome source for you to kind of streamline this whole process. It's called Money Talk, English phrases for financial conversations. Think of it like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
For navigating the world of money in English without getting bogged down in, all that technical jargon.
Yeah.
It's really broken down nicely. I mean, this source is great because it takes these phrases and shows you how you can use them in different scenarios, like at the bank, at a shop, even in a job interview.
Right, and it covers a surprisingly wide range of situations. We'll be tackling everything from banking basics to even discussing debt and even things like investments and financial planning. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the foundation. Every good house needs a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And that's essential vocabulary. And one thing that really jumped out at me was how a word as simple as like interest can have totally different meanings.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have interest earned on your savings.
Right.
And then you've got the interest that you have to pay on loans.
Totally. And you wouldn't believe how often these little vocabulary gaps can really lead to some confusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine mixing up income and savings when you're at the bank trying to explain your financial situation.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it could be a really awkward conversation.
I can only imagine, and this source doesn't stop at just, those very basic terms either. It really dives into some banking lingo, things like deposit, withdrawal balance, all those essentials for managing your money effectively.
Yeah, and the thing is, all of these concepts, they're all interconnected.
Right.
So you could be talking with somebody about an investment opportunity, and if you're not really clear on what profit means versus, what a loss is, it can be really difficult to assess the risk involved in that opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's like you were saying earlier, it's about having the right tools. You can't build a house without knowing what a foundation is or, what a hammer is or a nail.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've got our vocabulary toolbox ready.
Yes.
Now let's head to the bank. I think we've all had those moments where we feel a little flustered trying to explain ourselves in a foreign language, especially when it comes to something as important as, finances.
Yeah, it can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
And that's where having a few key phrases ready to go can make a huge difference. And this source really emphasizes the importance of asking the right questions.
Right.
For example, imagine you're sending money overseas.
Okay.
Knowing how to ask about fees on international transfers could save you a lot of money.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you were already dealing with exchange rates and all that. Who wants to get hit with, those hidden fees on top of it all?
Right. And it's not just about sounding fluent. It's about advocating for yourself and making sure you understand all of the costs involved.
Right. It's about being in control of your money, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source has got some great phrases for all those common banking situations like checking your balance, making withdrawals, understanding when deposits clear. Basically all those things you need to handle your everyday banking.
Perfect. Okay, so we've conquered the bank now. Let's talk about something a little more fun.
Yeah.
Shopping. I am always impressed by people who can just negotiate effortlessly, and just snag amazing deals.
Oh, yeah.
And this section of the source has some really clever phrases for doing just that. What were some of your favorites?
Well, one thing that stood out to me was the importance of choosing the right phrase for this situation.
Okay.
So, for example, if something is a bit overpriced, you might say something like, that's a bit much.
Yeah.
But if the price is totally unreasonable,
Right.
you might need a stronger statement like, that's way too expensive.
Gotcha. So it's about like matching your language
Exactly.
to the situation.
It is.
To really get your point across.
Yeah, you don't want to go in guns blazing when it's just, a little overpriced.
Right, exactly. And even those small discounts, that you get from negotiating can add up over time.
Oh, for sure. It really can.
So it's about being comfortable asking about prices, requesting discounts, and understanding how to use those negotiation tactics. This source also includes a really helpful example conversation about paying with a credit card. which can be especially helpful when you're shopping, abroad.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, now for the topic that can make anyone a little nervous: salary talk.
Ooh, yeah.
Whether it's asking for a raise or negotiating your starting salary, those conversations can be pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But having the right phrases, in your back pocket can definitely help you feel more prepared.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that the source encourages you to think beyond just the number itself.
Okay.
Sometimes negotiable salary on a job posting can really open the door to other things that you can negotiate, like benefits or vacation time,
Oh, that's a good point.
or even flexible work arrangements.
Yeah, it's not just about the money. It's about, crafting that whole package to
Yeah.
really fit your needs.
It's about knowing your worth
Yeah.
and what's important to you, and then being able to really articulate that clearly.
I like that a lot. And this source provides some really great phrases for asking about salary ranges, negotiating raises based on your performance, and even
Yeah.
just initiating that conversation in a way that is confident but also diplomatic.
Mm-hmm.
And they even include an example conversation that shows how to ask for a raise in a way that's assertive but still maintains that positive relationship with your employer.
Right. It's about finding that balance
Yes.
between advocating for yourself and being respectful of the situation.
Now let's dive into a topic that can feel a little heavier: debt.
Okay.
Whether we like it or not, it's a reality for a lot of people. And while these conversations aren't always easy, knowing the right vocabulary can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah, it's true. And this section really emphasizes clear communication when you're talking about debt.
Right.
It provides phrases for different types of debt, like student loans or credit card debt, and even offers language for seeking advice and exploring possible solutions.
Like, I need advice on paying off my credit card debt. Sometimes just saying those words out loud can feel like a huge step.
It can be.
But knowing how to articulate your situation clearly is so essential for getting the right guidance.
Yeah, and the source provides a really good example conversation about seeking advice on credit card debt. And it highlights how important it is to be open and honest about your situation so that you can get the best support.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part, from essential vocabulary to handling those sometimes tricky situations like banking, shopping, salary negotiations, and even talking about debt.
Yeah, we have.
But we're not done yet.
There's still more to come.
So much more to unpack in part 2. We're going to delve deeper into some specific scenarios from the source material and really break down how to use these phrases effectively in real-world situations. So stay tuned.
We'll see you there. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've laid some really great groundwork with essential vocabulary and phrases for different financial scenarios. But now it's time to roll up our sleeves
Let's do
and
it.
put these phrases to work.
Yes, I'm so ready to level up my money talk skills.
Okay.
Let's revisit the bank for a moment. I'm really curious about those phrases the source highlighted for clear communication. It seems like something as simple as just asking a question could make a huge difference.
It really can. Like, for example, knowing how to ask, what are the fees for international transfers? It's crucial. You imagine you're sending $1,000 overseas, and there's a hidden 3% fee.
Oh, no.
Suddenly you're out $30.
Yeah, that's a pricey surprise. I am definitely making a note of that phrase. It's amazing how just that simple question could save you so much hassle and money.
It's not just about avoiding surprises, though.
Okay.
By asking about those fees, you're showing the bank that you're financially savvy.
Right.
You're paying attention to the details.
Right.
It puts you in a much stronger position.
I like that it's about taking control of the conversation and your finances.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of being in control,
Right.
let's move on to shopping and negotiation.
What?
This is where I need all the help I can get.
Well, you're in luck, because this source has some real gems for this as well.
Okay, yeah.
One key takeaway is choosing the right phrase for the situation.
Okay.
There's a subtle but important difference between saying, that's a bit much,
Right.
and that's way too expensive.
Yes, you're right. I would probably use the first one if the price was, just a little high. But if it was like a total ripoff, I would definitely go with that stronger statement.
Yeah,
It's about matching your language to how you really feel.
exactly. And remember, even those small discounts that you get, if you're negotiating those, add up over time.
That's true.
So don't be afraid to negotiate a little bit.
I'm starting to see a theme here. It's all about feeling empowered to speak up and ask for what you want now. Speaking of potentially uncomfortable conversations,
Okay.
let's tackle salary negotiations. This is an area where I tend to feel a little bit, out of my depth, especially in a different language.
Yeah. Understandable. But what I found so fascinating in the source material is that it's not just about having the right phrases to
Yeah.
ask for a certain number.
Right.
It's about broadening your perspective
Yeah.
on what negotiable salary really means.
So it's not just about like, haggling over a higher number.
Exactly. It could be about negotiating for benefits that are important to you, like,
Yeah.
extra vacation days or flexible work arrangements,
Yeah.
or even professional development opportunities.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
It reframes that whole negotiation process.
It does.
It's not just about the money, it's about creating a work situation that really makes you happy and helps you thrive.
Yes.
Okay, let's shift gears to a topic that can be a bit more sensitive: debt. I think we've all had those moments where we wish we had better language to discuss this, whether it's our own debt or, giving advice to someone else.
It's true. It can feel a little loaded.
Yeah.
But the source material does a great job of providing clear, concise phrases to really navigate these conversations. And what stood out to me was being proactive instead of avoiding the topic.
Okay.
They encourage you to use phrases like, I need advice on paying off my credit card debt, or I'm trying to consolidate my loans.
That makes sense. Sometimes just saying those words out loud can feel like a huge step towards taking control.
It really can.
But having that language, makes it easier to reach out for help or advice. And it can also help you advocate for yourself if you're dealing with, lenders or creditors.
Exactly. And it's not just about dealing with existing debt. It's about talking about financial planning.
Mhm.
In a broader sense, like saving for retirement or investing in real estate or even creating a budget.
I love that they include that it's not just about putting out fires. It's about, building a solid foundation for your future.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
I'm already feeling so much more confident just hearing these phrases and imagining myself using them.
That's fantastic to hear. Like, language is a skill.
Yeah,
And just like any skill, it takes practice to become really fluent.
for sure.
So the more you use these phrases out in the real world, the more natural they're going to feel.
I'm ready to put my money talk skills to the test.
Yes.
Now, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts and takeaways in part 3. How can we turn this knowledge into lasting confidence and positive change in our financial lives?
That's a great question. We'll explore that and more in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the final part of our depth dive. As we were going through all those phrases and scenarios in the first 2 parts, one thing that really struck me was how much power there is in just knowing the right words. It's like having a secret code that unlocks this whole new level of understanding and control when it comes to finances.
I love that analogy, when you can clearly articulate your needs at the bank or negotiate effectively while shopping, or confidently, talk about your salary expectations. You're not at the mercy of others anymore.
Well,
You're an active participant in shaping your financial well-being.
and it's not even just about sounding fluent. It's about that feeling of empowerment that you get
Yes.
from knowing how to handle these situations. It's like, hey, I got this.
100%. And that sense of confidence can really have like a ripple effect on other areas of your life too.
Oh, totally.
When you feel good about managing your finances, it can really boost your self-esteem and just give you a greater sense of security overall.
It's like that feeling when you finally master a new skill.
Yeah,
It just gives you this boost of energy and motivation.
for sure.
But, learning is one thing, and actually putting it into practice is another. Do you have any advice for our listeners on how to bridge that gap?
Well, the source material actually gives a really good challenge
Okay.
to try to use at least 3 of the phrases that we've talked about in real life this week.
I love that it's a very practical way to take this knowledge out of the theoretical realm and into the real world.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe it's asking for a discount at your favorite store, or checking your account balance online, or even just practicing some of the phrases with a friend.
Yeah, just getting comfortable with the language.
Exactly. And as you start using them more and more, you'll be amazed at how quickly they become second nature.
It's like learning to ride a bike at first. It feels a little wobbly, but with practice, you eventually find your balance and becomes effortless.
That's a great analogy.
And as you become more comfortable with the language of money, you'll naturally feel more confident in those financial decisions.
I think that's a really important point to emphasize. Learning how to talk about money in English is an investment in yourself.
Totally.
It's about gaining that control, building confidence, and opening up new possibilities for your financial future.
So to wrap things up, if you could leave our listeners with one final thought, what would it be?
I would say, don't underestimate the power of language.
I like that.
Mastering money talk in English is a skill that can truly transform your relationship with finances.
Hmm.
Embrace the challenge, practice those phrases, and watch your confidence soar.
Such great advice. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to tackle your financial conversations with newfound confidence.
Until next time.
See you then.